All right, as we just heard in the feed, News Corp head Rupert Murdoch wants to block sites like Google and the Drudge Report from accessing sites like the Wall Street Journal and the New York Post. So what does that mean for you and me and the internet at large? Well, that's what we're here to tell you. It's called The Loop. Joining me now from San Francisco to help us make sense of it all, staff writer for CNET News, Caroline McCarthy is here. How are you, Caroline?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Have you Googled your Wall Street Journal stories and whatnots today, or?
No, you know, I really haven't yet.
No? Well, you better get on it quick, because Rupert
know.
says he's removing News Corp sites from Google. So how many sites is he actually talking about here? Have they been named specifically?
Well, he has said that this would be after he's put content behind a paywall, which he's been saying he'll do for quite a while. What's less certain is whether he will put everything behind a paywall, because if you recall, News Corp owns MySpace, it owns IGN, it owns Rotten Tomatoes, in addition to the Wall Street Journal and the New York Post and a ton of other newspapers around the world. I don't think he's going to put Rotten Tomatoes behind a paywall, but I don't know, he might be crazy enough, he might do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it could happen there, but I mean, this paywall thing has been going on for years. Do you think he'll even actually ever put the Wall Street Journal behind the paywall?
Well, if you recall, a couple of years ago, when it was cool to get paywalls off of your content, he was saying he was considering taking the Wall Street Journal paywall off. Obviously, that didn't happen. And so now he's going all like Dr. Evil and saying that he's going to put a cloak of invisibility over it all. So you can never tell with this guy.
Has he purchased a hairless cat recently? Do we know?
Well, he's Australian, so I think he might have a hairless wallaby.
Oh.
You might want to see if any have been sold recently. I hear they're
Even
expensive.
more nefarious, yes. And Google's getting all the attention here, but Murdoch is talking about, I mean, he's apparently we can't even ask Jeeves what content is behind that wall, right?
Yeah.
It's every search engine.
Well, Google obviously is the biggest player in search, although for the first time, and this is what makes it really interesting, Microsoft's Bing is a legitimate contender. And there are already some pundits saying that Murdoch could presumably strike a deal with a second or third tier search engine for some kind of exclusivity arrangement. If other big media moguls start to do that too, the entire search business could get really interesting.
Yeah,
that is, if it happens.
So he could potentially go to a Hotbot or a Dogpile or dig up Lycos and say, hey, you get the exclusive search rights to my websites. And therefore, that could set precedent, right? We could talk about other major content providers getting exclusive search deals with actual engines?
Yes. Well, I mean, it could theoretically happen. I don't think it will, because I think that Google does have a point. They are a big source of site traffic, like a huge source.
Right.
And so I think that some content owners who have a little more faith in advertising appreciate that. I think that News Corp does look a little bit paranoid in this situation.
Yeah, and how many people actually go to Google to find the Wall Street Journal and the Post? You know, they Google that,
Yeah.
they Google the .com instead of actually putting it in their address bar.
That's the thing, is that Murdoch can easily keep the Wall Street Journal behind a paywall because it's a brand. It was a brand long before he purchased it. People go to WSJ.com and pay for, you know, top-tier financial information that they've been getting in newspaper form for years. I think the bigger complications are when you know, news sources that are not as reputable and sort of mainstays as the Wall Street Journal try to go behind paywalls and people just stop reading them.
Right, so how does Rupert do this exactly?
Well, he amasses his army of sharks with laser beams on their heads and directs them to change a file in a website called robots.txt. I mean, people can do it too, not just sharks.
Sure.
But it's actually quite easy to get your site out of Google.
And so he could conceivably do this. If he were to do this, how long before you think he reverses course, before he realizes that people like searching for news and clicking on the link and getting the content that they actually search for? I mean, do you see this? Let's say he enacts this in another year or so. Does it last for 5?
You know, I think that that's one of the things getting in the way of why he might not do this in the first place, because it is so unproven and it has such high potential for failure. And I think that Murdoch would rather not look like he made a huge mistake.
And MySpace, I mean, really?
Yeah, I don't think he'll put MySpace behind a paywall.
Okay, good. I had to make sure, because I mean, it's free as could be right now. They could pay me to use it, and even I'm not signing up for glitter graphics and Tequila
Because
blog
glitter
posts.
graphics are priceless.
That is true. So if this happens now, who wins, who loses, Caroline? I mean, is this going to be a win for big old Rupert?
Well, the big win would be if he manages to, as some people are surmising, strike that deal with like Bing or Ask.com, because that would be a huge win for whatever that search engine is, because it would be a big hit to Google.
Yeah.
If Murdoch does this and it flops, obviously that's a big win for Google, because it shows just how powerful they are.
It's a slippery slope regardless, though. So,
it's a very precarious situation.
Carolyn McCarthy from CNET.com, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And keeping us in the loop.